True story. Memories of Minsk, Belarus in the 1970s. It's hard to blame me for nostalgia for Soviet times, and especially for Soviet stores, but the bakery on Leninsky Prospect 78 holds a special place in my memories. For a small child, the bakery set one of the first criteria for adulthood. He's only 6 years old, but he already goes to the bakery himself. Such evidence indicated that the child was responsible and independent beyond his years. I envied such grown-up children, and, at the age of 6, seriously considered whether I could handle such an assignment or not. I believed that I could, but my caring parents did not consider it necessary to give me the opportunity to test myself. There was also an urban legend associated with Soviet bakeries about a smart shepherd dog to whom the owner gave money and a bag, and she went with them to buy bread herself. All the saleswomen knew her, put bread in her bag, and took 15 kopecks. I heard this story about all the central Minsk bakeries as a child. It seems to me that in other cities of the Soviet Union, the legendary smart shepherd only went to get the morning newspaper. Of course, this dog did not exist. But in today's world, such true stories simply cannot arise. They are impossible to imagine in the setting of a modern hypermarket. Or, here is another situation, this time absolutely real, which would also be impossible in our correct days. An elderly plump cashier with a bun hairdo who had worked in our bakery for many years had a mentally disabled daughter. She was completely out of her mind, and her mother could not leave her home alone. So, the entire shift, while her mother worked at the cash register, this poor girl sat nearby on a low windowsill and played with a large jingling bunch of keys. It looked wild to outsiders, but all the locals had long since gotten used to this specific scene, and no one had ever thought of expressing displeasure about it. Everyone sympathized with the cashier, and most importantly, this did not cause any prohibitions from the store administration or other higher-ups. Everyone understood that it would not be possible to organize the lives of these poor people in any other way. The mother must work, and the daughter cannot be left alone, so let her sit nearby. It is unlikely that this is acceptable now. Bread in Minsk has always been tasty. Moreover, in the 70s, the criminal tradition of sealing it in plastic film had not yet been born at Minsk bakeries, so fresh buns had a crispy crust. In general, what kind of neat idiot came up with the idea of packing bread in plastic? What deadly unsanitary danger did he save us from? Probably, it was the same person who decided that we should sell loaves cut into stupid slices of a centimeter thickness, too thin for fresh bread and too thick for slightly stale bread. In the mid-70s, the bakery sold Ukrainian for 14 kopecks, Form for 16, light grey Kishinevsky, which seemed bland to me, for as much as 20, but the main thing was Minsky, which my grandfather called Sitny, a very tasty grey bread with caraway seeds. It cost 18 kopecks. Minsky quickly went stale, but while it was fresh, it was beyond competition. They didn't bake anything like this in other Soviet cities. It was a purely our bread attraction. In the 80s, this type of bread disappeared. Zavornoy appeared later, and I can't remember if there was Borodinsky in those years. A little further on the wooden shelves lay sliced loaves, vitushki, platenki, with and without poppy seeds, snezhinka buns with raisins and simply sprinkled with sugar, pretzels, buns and bagels. A milk bagel cost 5 kopecks, and a wonderfully tasty bagel with poppy seeds, 6. It had to be brought home, cut in half with a sharp knife parallel to the plane of the ring, spread with butter and plum jam, take a book by Alexandre Dumas and wash down all this happiness with tea from a large mug. If you leaf through the thick volume 20 years later, which has been preserved on my shelf since those ancient times, then on the pages you can see streaks from that very Georgian second-class tea and even stains from jam. By the way, I don't remember if lemon was a luxury in those years. and I wonder if they still grow tea in Georgia. But the actual bread department occupied only the left wing of our bakery. In the center was the sweets department, and on the right was the cafeteria. In the sweets department, they sold loose multicolored Montpensier caramels, wrapping them in a bag of ubiquitous grey wrapping paper. Why these simple little candies were called by such an exquisite French word, I never thought about. This word was a household word back then, like, for example, the same gastronome. Hard sugar halva, nut sherbet, and pioneer roll were packed in the same grey paper for 19 kopecks per 100 grams. The roll was made of thin biscuit, in which a filling of thick jam with peanut fragments was wrapped. Unlike halva, I liked it. The skill of rolling up cones from paper torn along a ruler is apparently lost forever. As for coffee, I have absolutely no plebeian taste. I don't like trendy versions. Espresso seems too harsh to me, and cappuccino is empty. At the same time, neither one nor the other is drinkable. For me, there are only two types of delicious coffee. Coffee with milk, preferably with condensed milk, from my childhood, and Turkish coffee from the cooperative times. The smell of this very coffee with milk was emitted by the right part of our bakery. Now, all branded boutiques install special air fresheners that are supposed to generate a refined signature aroma, because there is a whole large compartment in the brain where these smells are deposited and remembered for a long time, so that later, when they meet again, they evoke the right associations. So, in my head, it seems, a significant part of the space allocated for smells is occupied by the warm and sweet coffee aroma of the bakery of my childhood. There were 3 high metal tables in the cafeteria where you could drink this Soviet coffee. You hang your briefcase on a hook under the table, put your fur hat with ear flaps on the low windowsill, drink hot sweet coffee with milk from a faceted glass, eat it with a basket cake decorated with whipped egg whites in the shape of an Olympic flame, and look through the large frameless windows at the passers-by walking along the avenue, hiding their noses from the snow in their raised collars. And you feel warm and delicious. But I don't remember another bakery, next to which I lived a little later, already in the late 70s. It was located in a building diagonally from the circus and was completely boring. The name bread store would have been more appropriate for it. Every weekend it was subject to a massive raid. The thing is that on Saturdays and Sundays, villagers would come to the circus on numerous chartered buses, and after watching the show, they would go to that very bakery, take stretched string bags out of their pockets, and buy a huge number of the cheapest loaves. They say that this was the most economical way to feed domestic pigs. Even now, I have a picture in front of my eyes. A heavy, middle-aged woman, stumbling, dragging a string bag filled to the brim with loaves of formed bread under her big belly with both hands, and loudly shouting to her fellow travelers in a shrill voice of a villager. "Oh, nia danyasu oo." At that time, it seemed funny and almost indecent to me. Now, I rather feel the awkwardness of a spoiled city dweller in front of a rude but hard-working and economic collective farmer for that scene. And bakeries also sold cakes, an essential attribute of any holiday or friendly get-together. It was polite to come to any party with a cake, as if not empty-handed. No one treated them with disdain, neither the Minskoy with white meringue mushrooms, nor the chocolate Leningradskoy. During Perestroika, our bakery was privatized and turned into an uncomfortable and ridiculous grocery store near the house. Naturally, it quickly went bankrupt due to its complete stupidity. Now, in its place, is the pizzeria Tempo. We go there sometimes, not least because this place brings back warm memories for us, and the view from the window has hardly changed. But during our first visits, Yulia and I kept repeating to each other and explaining to our children, "And this is where our bakery was. And this is where the bagels were." And I noticed the following. We state, there was a corner one here. There was a 20th one here. There was a dietary cafeteria there. But about the bakery, we both always say differently. There was our bakery here. Ours. It's even strange. Just a bakery.